Just give me a second. Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live AMA here on the Chainreach community. We're having an AMA session with Rainfall, and we have here with us today Amit Pradhan. He's the founder of Chainreach of Rainfall. Sorry. We're really glad to see many familiar faces and new members here in the room. Hope everyone's having a great day wherever you're joining from. So, during the session, we're gonna be taking a deeper look into Rainfall and what is building, the problem they're solving, why it matters in the current market, and how they're positioning themselves moving forward. And we also touch on their vision, their roadmap, and what the community can expect next. So, as always, here on the Cherish community, this is meant to be an open, transparent conversation. So, I'll start things off with a few questions to help everyone get a clear understanding of Rainfall and their approach. And after that, we'll open the floor for the community questions so you can hear directly from the founder himself. So, Amit, really appreciate you taking your time to join us today and share your insights with the community. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone in the community for attending.
Right. Without further ado, let's jump right in. So, could you give us a brief introduction about yourself, how you got connected to the project, what made you start the project in the first place, and basically what you guys are aiming to solve with the project, with your project in the crypto industry?
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And again, thank you to the community for dialing in. So my name is Amit. I've been in the world of AI for 27 years now. My co-founder, who's our CTO as well, brilliant AI architect, Rajesh. We founded Zero, which is the world's first privacy-focused AI research lab about 20 years ago. And the mission at the time was, if AI fulfilled any of its promise, and here we are today, where we are living in AI world now, we believe that besides all of the benefits and all of the dystopian challenges, one of the biggest victims, if AI were to be successful, would be privacy. As many of you know, AI is a big data game. You need copious amounts of data to not just train AI models. You need that data to be ongoing so that those models can stay relevant, can stay accurate, can provide value. And so in that journey, we started working on privacy as the foundational principle. And fast forward all of this time, we built the first multi-sensory recognition algorithms, AI, that can live entirely on low footprint devices. So your phone, it could be your wearables, it could be a laptop, it could be a car. And the idea was that if we are able to, instead of just create one large beige colored model that tries to service everyone, but in turn has privacy violations, and you don't have control over your data, you don't have control over your agency, then we're going down a dangerous path. But instead, if we could give everyone their own AI model that is the hyper-personalized view of their life, then we would be able to create an ecosystem where your data doesn't leave the device, because in the case of Rainfall, the AI comes to your device, so you have full control. We don't have any servers. And effectively, we're able to create not just a model of everyone's life, but you own and control that model. Those were the fundamental principles that we were building with. I've also been involved in the Web3 world for a long time, co-founded the Silicon Valley Blockchain Society, was president for 7 years, and we were focused on bringing long-term value to the Web3 space. And because we were already doing what now you can imagine decentralized AI, but also what we call self-sovereign AI, where it's not just that the AI is decentralized, but it is owned by each person rather than by one company. And so that combination and the intersection of Web3 and AI meant that we were able to create what is now Rainfall. So Rainfall came about 4 years ago. We brought in a few more co-founders, incredible team. Mark, I'm not sure if he's on the call or not today yet, but focuses on product and market, and we have a team that then evolved from there, and we started building Rainfall to be the world's first fully personal, self-sovereign AI platform where every person could have their own hyper-personalized AI that they own that becomes a reflection of them, of their life, of their behaviors, of their patterns. We call it your aura, AURA. And so each person's AI is their aura. It's a reflection of who they are. And it's an aura that they control, that they own, and it has provenance and a wallet baked in so that your aura can do a whole bunch of things for you. It can act as your hyper assistant interacting with other AIs for you while protecting your privacy. It can act as your guardian, so it can make sure that if you're having conversations or uploading photos into your favorite GPT, it can clean it of identifying data, put provenance tags so you own that photo that you just uploaded. And then it also acts as your oracle because you can now ask your aura, when did I last meet Harold and what did we chat about? And that kind of allows you to be even the oracle that you can access for your own life. And then all of these auras have the ability to be able to talk to each other while maintaining privacy and create real-time intelligence that gets deployed to businesses who pay for it. And that income comes back to each person through their aura. So that's kind of background in a nutshell, and also the context of why Rainfall came about. Our vision to give 6 billion connected humans their own personal AI that they own, and they can benefit economically from the intelligence created from their auras and effectively from their data.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I like the fact that you were being transparent and really honest in what you're saying, and it's really amazing. So, moving ahead to my next question: how do you balance pushing for maximum capital efficiency with the need to avoid risky domino effects in the market suddenly swings? So what kind of like safeguards or risk control do you have in place to keep everything stable?
Yeah, great question. Jumping straight into the tokenomics. So one of the big challenges in this space, and like I mentioned, I've been involved in it for about 12 years now, is the Web3 space, is that the token either has no deep connection to the business, and it is completely supply driven. So you basically have token supply, and then investor sentiment will determine, or market phases at that point will determine whether there's dumping on the token and the price drops, or whether there's value in the token. In the Rainfall ecosystem, it's a really unique token model. The token is the core currency and mechanism for the creation of intelligence, for the way the intelligence is valued, and the way that value is then sold to businesses that pay for it. So we value the intelligence based on the US dollar so that there is a consistent dollar value. Businesses can set budgets for the intelligence that they're getting from the auras. But the transaction happens in the token, in the raindrop. And what that basically means is that the demand for the token first comes from the core business of Rainfall. And so the big advantage is that you're not just dependent upon investor sentiment. You're not just dependent upon what's happening with the market. As the business of Rainfall grows, as you have more users, more businesses, more intelligence being generated, and that intelligence starts getting monetized, the demand for the token starts from the businesses buying that token to be able to pay for the intelligence. And so you create a unique, what we call demand-sided currency rather than merely a supply-sided currency. So the core value for the token keeps coming from the business growing. which we believe is a much healthier way to think about the token. So when investors come in um, to the token, when users earn value from the token for their auras, when businesses pay in the token, you're actually using the token in the entire economy, not just as a mechanism to, hope for investor sentiment to be positive and then struggle when investor sentiment is negative.
Yeah, that's understandable. Well, front running and MEV attacks are real issues in DeFi yield protocol. So, what specific tools or design choice has Rainfall put in place to protect users from these problems without messing up incentives or user experience?
Yeah, so I think unlike perhaps a traditional DeFi protocol, obviously Rainfall's economics are very different. The economics basically work around the value that is generated in people's aura. So effectively, what happens is and I'll just jump into a little bit of how the economics work, but basically, whenever a piece of intelligence is generated, let's say, for example, we go and get coffee somewhere, and then you pay with your credit card, Apple Pay, whatever. The knowledge that it's not just the transaction amount, but the fact that we went there together. It's before going and getting a workout. After that, we go and get a protein smoothie. Those patterns of intelligence allow businesses, without the loss of privacy in the Rainfall model, to be able to provide more value to us going and getting coffee, or us going to the gym, or us going and getting a smoothie afterwards. There's what we call real-time intelligence being generated from maybe two of our auras, maybe there's 10 people's aura, and 85% of that value effectively flows back to the wallets of the auras that help create that intelligence. So when you think of like the value locked, that value locked is actually uh, compared to, let's say, a DeFi protocol, it's tied into those participants in that flow, right? So it's where the data came from, it's the creation of the intelligence, it's the business paying for that intelligence, it's the flow of the raindrops back to the auras that created it. And then, of course, they can, spend that in other ways within the ecosystem, or once, it's fully trading on exchanges post TGE, those tokens can be traded. So what it does is it takes away some of the challenges that you have front running, as an example, with traditional DeFi protocols, because of the way that the economics of Rainfall are tied into the TVL in our case is a very different model, because at the end of the day, it is intelligence that is getting valued and compensated back primarily to the people who create the value rather than the people who front run the value.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So let's talk about the liquidity aspect. Does Rainfall adjust things like fee rates or liquidity allocations on the fly based on what happened on chain?
Um, I mean, yes, we have obviously we have controls, both from market maker perspective as well as from the way that we manage supply. So actually, again, because this is not a traditional DeFi protocol, some of the context is different. But I think what is maybe more relevant here to understand is how we manage supply. The raindrop's life begins, not where the supply begins. The raindrop's life begins where the demand begins, right? So we
Right.
always have a demand-sided token in terms of how many businesses need how many tokens at any given time. And so the supply depends entirely on fulfilling that demand. Because if the system is growing and the amount of intelligence is growing, and the number of people who need to buy that intelligence is growing, it's only then that you would need more tokens in the system. And so, I often like to make sure that you can answer the question, A, why do you need a token? B, why does that token have to be custom? And then C, where does the token get its value from? Right? Not just perception, not just investor demand, not just, oh my God, this is hot, let's get in, right? All of those things are true. All of those things need to be true to be successful. But from our perspective, we always focus on the fact that the token exists because value was generated that backs that token's existence. And that's what makes the Rainfall system so unique, which in a design sense prevents from some of the challenges that you talked about, where you might end up with um, front running issues, liquidity issues, price collapse or exponential growth issues. All of those things are effectively baked into how the tokens even exist, accrue value, and can be, and the supply gets generated.
Okay. All right. Could you break down a bit regarding your uh, we know building efficient smart contract is a bit difficult. So, which parts of like Rainfall contract took uh, the most work or required innovative solutions, especially around saving gas or improving performance?
Yeah, so we're a layer one. Our chain is called Monsoon. It's a layer one on Avalanche. We needed to the token is an ERC token. We needed to have custom economics. So if you're going to provide the primary value of what is earned from the intelligence back to the user, you cannot have fluctuating fees, which is the reason we went with the decision to be a layer one. And our custom economics ensure that 85% of the value goes back to the auras, the users, which means that in the remaining value, we have node incentives, we have early investor incentives, and then we have the operating fees of Rainfall to keep the platform operating seamlessly, and then also as a platform to be sustainable and profitable. And so what we do is we have two very unique models from a node operator perspective. Every time intelligence is generated and sold, 2.5% of that transaction value automatically goes to the nodes where those transactions happen. And then we also have a separate model where even when auras are generated, because they provide all of this value to subscribers who can basically subscribe to the services around their aura, we have 2.5% of that going to the node operators as well. So on one hand, it becomes a really interesting model for node operators to be part of not just a transaction framework, but an intelligence generation framework, real-time social intelligence as we call it. And then equally, what we are able to ensure because of the structure of the chain is that we can have predictable fees, not just for the nodes, but also predictable fees for our economics to make sure that we can compensate the primary amount from the intelligence back to the auras. Because at the end of the day, if you have self-sovereign AI and it's your aura and you own it, then the income from it should come to you as well.
Yeah, that's understandable. Could you give us like a brief breakdown about your security perspective, how you guys are protecting the user's fund basically from fraudulent activities and all that, in the space?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, on one hand, there's your typical security at the chain level, but we also take kind of security and privacy of the data to another level as well. So the data, the raw data that comes from each one's device or the context of their life never leaves their device. So we don't take user data off the device. It's just the abstraction of that data that goes into your aura. Even the compute that powers that creation happens in effectively a blind compute framework, so that even we can't see the data. And then the auras all live as encrypted, disassembled models in a trusted execution environment that is completely decentralized as well. And so there's deep levels of security, not just in terms of what you expect from a layer one, but also in terms of how the data is treated within that. Because remember, at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're creating a unique economy from an AI perspective. But at the end of the day, from the data that is coming in from each user, and maybe we can talk a little bit later about how we even value data and the work that the data does for in the context of each piece of intelligence.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Right. Can you walk us through how Rainfall token actually like fits in the ecosystem and how value flows back to holders over time, and also how are you thinking about the long-term sustainability both in terms of product demand and the ecosystem around Rainfall?
Yeah, so I'll go in reverse of that question because it's a good way to think about how value flows through in the end to the token holder. But um, a big part of our go-to-market strategy with Rainfall is to roll out through partners, both enterprise as well as consumer, and go out to their users where the value is. And so instead of going out and trying to, at the beginning at least for a project, acquire users, and it's expensive with user acquisition and the spend that needs to go in there, we're partnering with in different use cases with enterprises, automotive space, financial services, healthcare, and in the next year, we'll start rolling out pilots around that. But we launched something recently that's really interesting called Star Aura, which is the aura of big stars. And we're starting with our first partner, Spencer Haywood, who's a big NBA legend, basketball in the US. And the idea is that stars who have, millions and millions of followers can have now their own authentic aura, which they own. So there's no question of, someone else pulling up a deep fake of a star or trying to capture their value. They have their own star aura. And because of the nature of the aura, because it can capture the who you are, it's the representation of you, behaviors, patterns, characteristics. Fans now can have a 24/7 interaction with their favorite star. And what that does is it unlocks something, a huge opportunity for our space. Web3, as much as we all love it, one of the big challenges is that our take rate of new users from the Web2 world tends to be very low. And there's a lot of challenges there, right? Like the access. Why does someone who doesn't understand Web3 come in? How do you make sure that the language that we narrate to them is comfortable? And at the end of the day, how do you make sure that they have a product that is easy to understand and use, right? Because so much of the Web3 space, all of us know how to use, but our parents would have no idea, right? It is so difficult to set up,
Right. Right.
wallets
I
and,
support
and,
you.
and all of that. So we basically, part of our strategy is that we're going out to where the trust is, right? So if you're a big NBA star, your fans trust you already. So they love the idea that they can now come and interact with you from an AI perspective, because they're going to be earning uh, tokens as part of the Rainfall ecosystem. even if they're not Web3 users, they are now in the possession of their own self-sovereign AI. They have a wallet and they have tokens, right? So now you can bring them to the next step and say, great, now you need to be able to trade those tokens. Okay, here's what you do next, right? You can set up an account on an exchange or a DEX or what have you. And so automatically, one, we're able to go to users that otherwise were not in the space, and you get a lot of access, which means going back to the first part of your question, more users, meaning more data, meaning more auras, meaning auras have more context, which means there's more value that you can deliver into the ecosystem with the intelligence from the auras, which means automatically you have more revenue flowing through. More of that goes back to the user, right? And as the system grows, as the value of the system grows, the base value for the token keeps growing, right? And then you add to that that we have very limited supply. Supply is driven entirely by demand. You suddenly start having a token that is always in demand, even if the investor cycles because of market conditions are different, right? And so you start creating disproportionate value. And then whether you are investing in the token and earning the token from your data, you're effectively creating significant value for a token that keeps growing because the demand for the system keeps growing.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Governance is a challenge between being decentralized and staying effective. So, how have you like structured rainfall? I keep calling it chain reach. Sorry, rainfall governance to balance that. Are you trying like any new ideas to get the community more actively involved?
Yeah, so we actually treat governance from the same principle that we treat the structure of rainfall, which is it's self-sovereign. You own your data, you own your AI, you have full control, which means that even the governance of the overall system needs to be baked that way. So we have a very interesting model there where um, the operating entity and the mechanism that runs the economics are tied together by a constitution. So, for example, the constitution says that a majority of the value of the income from intelligence has to flow back to the aura, like I said, right, 85%. Um, any structural changes to that, let's say those changes happen in a particular region, get voted upon by the active users in that region because those changes affect them. It might be because the number needs to be 83% because of some additional levies from that region. You want active governance. So you actually have the users involved in that piece. So that's super transparent from the perspective of fundamentally how the system runs. And then to add to that, like I was saying earlier, supply is based entirely upon the performance of the system. So we have something that we call the Network Pulse Index, or NPI. And the NPI is the measurement of the system across the entire ecosystem. So number of users, amount of data coming in, auras created, the value within the aura, the amount of intelligence that flows, the revenue that comes from it, and how it gets allocated back to each aura. So all of that happens in an algorithmically and transparent model, which means that it's not just the governance of the token in terms of just like how transparent the token is, it's the transparency across the whole system and how that system is therefore constantly growing and growing value, and how effectively we're managing that in a transparent, fair way. So we take governance not just in terms of do token holders see what's happening with the system? We take it across the board and say, look, the whole system needs to be transparent because at the end of the day, it is self-sovereign. It's not controlled by one entity, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, crypto market moves through very different phases, and yield opportunities don't always look the same in each one. So how does Rainfall adjust and its approach when market condition changes, or like for example when yield tightens or risk appetite shift or volatility increases, and how do you help users navigate those moments without overcomplicating things?
Yeah, I mean, I would go back to, what I was saying earlier about the structure of our economics, that if you're always subject to investor sentiment, if you're always subject to, you know, cycles of market sentiment as the primary value of your token, then you always risk the token spiking or the token completely tanking, right? And I think this is the problem for most projects because the token has no other value other than sentiment. And at the end of the day, from our perspective, the token's value is not coming merely from sentiment. Sentiment obviously helps, but the token's value is coming from the underlying um, economics of the system, the underlying utilization of the system. As the system grows, as more people have auras, and I'm hoping that everyone attending today quickly benefits from being able to have their own aura and the early incentives. And by the way, everyone go to www.rainfall.one/beta, BETA. Go sign up, get your access to the beta app already. Sign up to all of the incentives that will come to the early users, and so you can start getting up and running as well. But basically, at the end of the day, what you want to make sure is that the core value of the token comes from the business of the token and the growth of the business rather than just from sentiment, because it becomes much easier to manage the downside stability while still keeping opportunity for the upside on the token.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, how do you actually decide what to build next at the at the Rainfall? Is it more driven by the community's feedback on chain data, like partner requests, or long term vision? And can you share like an example of a decision where like that process really shaped the direction of the product?
Yeah, so look, at the end of the day, it's a self-sovereign AI product, right? It is shaped in the end by what you do in your life. It is shaped based on your data. It's the ultimate form of making sure that the product is shaped by the user, right? So if you think about it, it's not just that we're getting feedback from the market and saying, oh, let's give you a green button here, or let's give you this functionality. Let's allow you to tap here and download this, or change this. That's just one part. At the end of the day, the aura is your aura, right? It's shaped by you. It's how your data trains your own model, and it's then how you nurture that model. So I'll give you a simple example. If you were to connect your photos into your aura, and if we were to take a photo now, it would automatically, train the aura even more. But you could nurture your aura by interacting at that point and saying, this photo was with the Chainreach community and loved this question. Now you're actually nurturing the context of the aura as well in the in future intelligence to understand deeper about the questions that resonated with me, for instance, in my aura in the context of this photo that was taken. And so effectively what you're doing is imagine a product that instead of having a spec and people providing feedback, you now have a product that is entirely modeled on the nature of your life, not the nature on the designers of the product. So it's kind of a unique way of thinking of like who builds the product? Well, once the AI is delivered to your device, you build the product and it's your product and you earn the income from it, right? So it's a really powerful way to think about, what is the next step of decentralized, communities, societies, feedback, governance. It's actually self-sovereign. So you actually have control over your context as you participate in the overall ecosystem.
Okay, okay. I think I'm just gonna ask a few, like two more questions, and then we open the floor for the community. So, if like a larger protocol or platform were to build something similar internally, what's like the hardest part to replicate about Rainfall? The the thing that gives you long term defensibility rather than temporary advantage.
Yeah, very good question. So at the core of all of this, it's our AI is very unique, very proprietary, built over, like I said, 20 years of lab effort that is able to create this multi-sensory recognition of people's lives and the model around it, and all of that on low footprint devices. So it happens on your device. That's super hard to do. It's very unique. It requires a lot of, time and effort. You can't just pop up a smaller version of an LLM and get the same capability. So from a defensibility perspective, that's kind of the one core piece that is really unique. Our algorithmic model for both generating contextually relevant intelligence and pricing it is very, very unique as well, and it's available in like a protocol layer in terms of that engine, very unique. And then the way that we have a network of services that create the ecosystem around the matching of that intelligence, making sure that provenance always relates back to the user, and allowing the auras to actually interact like oracles with the rest of the universe, so that you could have another protocol that is trying to do whatever for a user and they could actually still consume aura intelligence. So we like to think of ourselves as a platform layer for consumer-owned, consumer-created intelligence that can work with other protocols as well, other systems, other AI systems, agentic systems, and then of course business intelligence systems as well. So in many ways, we like the idea that there could be more protocols that are trying to solve for the challenge of letting users be compensated fairly for the intelligence or the data from their lives, and that they can easily consume that intelligence from the aura, pay for it fairly, the user gets compensated, everybody wins.
Yeah, that's understandable. No, I like the fact that you were being honest about it, which is really amazing. So, I'm just gonna ask about your roadmap and where you see rainfall in the next, 6 to 12 months, and basically what like any other updates or features that the community can be excited about in the long run.
Yeah, so 2026, very, very exciting time. We're rolling out the star aura with the first star. Then we're going to bring on like new stars every couple of months or so, create massive amount of outreach. There'll be version one of the apps that people can download and start building their own aura and earning an income. We'll have our enterprise rollouts in the second part of 2026, and then eventually just getting to a scale part where our eventual vision over the next decade is to make sure that there are 6 billion connected people on this planet. We still need to connect 2 billion, but of the 6 billion connected people, people will be able to have their own aura. And as the world has its own auras, then they become the foundational base with which anyone can build on top of that. And that's kind of what we're looking to enable for people, for the ecosystem. And all of that will happen, starting out from the second half of 2026, going into the next, following few years.
All right, that's gonna be my own question from my side. So, guys, don't forget to follow Rainfall, all their platforms, and also engage with them as well. And don't forget to grab a bag as well. And I think it's time for the community question. I think I muted Jace. Jace, your mic is muted. You can ask away. But before we head to that, Amit, is there like any anything that we didn't cover during this conversation, and maybe you can talk about that before we head on to the community questions.
Yeah, I'll say one quick thing in terms of the true value of the platform, right? Because I think sometimes it's easy to talk about the token and the value of the token, and that's super exciting. And hopefully, people have a deeper understanding of why this, the token has such deep value and it's built on such strong foundational principles in the Rainfall model. But I think it's also important to understand, why having your own aura is so important in this world of AI. Um, you know, we're not just losing our data to big tech, we're losing it to a model that's been created of our lives. And as we transition into a world of AI, it's so important that people are able to own their own AI. They're able to own their own identities around their AI and not just have control for the sake of control, but also from the benefits that come with it. Economics is obviously one of them. At the core, the aura is doing three things for each person, like I mentioned earlier. It's acting as your hyper assistant because it can coordinate with the world that you are interacting with. It could be because you're interacting now with AI agents or AI platforms, or any entity that's interacting with your life. It's also important to have your aura act as your guardian. Very simple example, like I was giving you earlier, if you do upload a photo, um, you know, you've lost all of the identifying information that's in the photo, your location, when it was taken, on what camera, etc. And then that photo is out there. There's no provenance tag back to you. And the Guardian part of Aura takes care of that for you and then provides you intelligence into even your own life, right? Besides providing that intelligence into the outside world. And then all of that being done in a way that remains in your control with your privacy protected. It's important for people to understand that having your aura is so important, right? And like I mentioned earlier, go to rainfall.one, rainfall.one/beta, BETA. Go and sign up. Be the first. Get all the value that comes with that. Because at the end of the day, what we are excited about is a token that builds on the core value of giving each person that's sovereignty, that control, that agency over their own AI lives and through their aura. So let's never forget that at the end of the day, what we're building is something that we think is going to be not just important from a rainfall perspective, that's a given, but it's important from each person having, control and agency over their digital lives, especially in a world that is now getting fully dominated by AI. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands why this is so important and goes ahead and signs up as well.
Right. Thanks for clarifying that and talking about it. So I am muted. Jace. Jace, your mic is already muted. You can Ask your question.
Hi guys, hope I'm clear.
Yeah, go ahead, Jace.
My question is, for some hearing about rainfall for the first time, what's one real life thing Aura can already help a user to do today without feeling complicated or too AI? That's my question.
Yeah, so great question. Like I said earlier, go sign up for the beta. If you're on test flight, you can already download the beta. Sign up so you can get the first release. Let your aura start creating and becoming the model of your life, all of the protection that comes with it. And there's various different use cases. But one of the core fundamental ones, if you look at the assistant, the guardian, and the oracle, as your aura model is already being created, the sooner you start creating it, the sooner your data is starting to get into this provenance engine, right? So that the context of your life is being protected for you, more value is being built, and then as the system grows, you're in the best position already to have like a fully functioning aura that is able to start generating value. A simple use case of being able to look at what's happening with your life, being able to query your own aura even before thinking about the external economics is already super powerful. So yeah, go sign up and start building your aura.
Thanks for your answer to my question. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for your question, Jace. I see I muted Laura. Laura, you can ask your question now. Laura, are you there?
Hello guys, hope I'm audible.
Loud and clear.
Okay, so my question is, most AI platforms rely heavily on the cloud. Why was it important for Rainfall to keep Aura on device? And what does that practically change for users in their everyday experience?
Yeah, so I would say kind of core to our model, right? At the end of the day, if your data is not with you anymore, if it's going and training a model that lives somewhere else, then you don't have control, right? You don't have agency. So one of the mechanisms, and I refer back to our work in the lab as well, was about the mechanism or the method to make sure that you can guarantee privacy. And one of the most ultimate ways of doing that is just not having the data, right? Letting it remain with the user. So that AI model that we've created is very unique. And I think to the question asked much earlier, what is the moat? That was one of the huge moats, right? Technology moats from a Rainfall perspective. Um, at the end of the day, having agency and control over your life is being able to have the choices to decide what happens with your life. You decide where you go, you decide who you talk to in your real life, you decide whether you want to walk into a building or not. And in your digital world, not having that control because now it's in the hands of 8 companies or 10 companies is not the way for us to have self-sovereignty, right? And so at the end of the day, that is why it is so important to make sure that we have control and agency over our data. And what is the way to make it happen is to actually ensure that the raw data hasn't left your control. And that's why our architecture becomes so important. That's why decentralization is so important, so that you don't have one party that controls all of the value and all of the upside and all of the dangers that come with it, right?
Okay, thanks for the answer to my question.
Yeah, thanks, Laura, for your question. So I'm just gonna pick one question from the comment section here on Telegram, and that'll be the end of the session. So I got a question from Keith. He said, from a technical standpoint, what were some of the hardest problems you had to solve to make one device AI actually work well?
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge was being able to. For those of you who have exposure to AI, you can understand how AI. It's very difficult to make AI lightweight, right? It's very difficult for it to run on small footprint devices, and doing that in a way that it was still able to achieve its core function, which is to be able to capture a reference point of your life, all of the data events helping generate that narrative, obviously took a lot of effort and many years to be able to do it in a way that allows for it to be efficient, but also allows for it to be effective, right? So that was one of our big technical challenges. But with technical challenges, when you surmount them, then you also create really good moats, right? And moats from the perspective of both market moats as well as value for the user. And so that's kind of core of what we've been able to achieve with Rainfall.
All right, I think this is all we're gonna take for today's session. And before we close things up from here, I just wanted to ask if you guys have, done like a merchandise for your project as well. You know, to market your project. Have you guys done anything like that, or basically it's in your roadmap as well?
Can you ask that again? You broke up in between for me at least, so I missed the last part.
Yeah, yeah. I was asking about your merchandise. If you guys have one, for your project merchandising.
We don't as yet, but as soon as we do, we'll let you know. So the community should join our Telegram community. If again, like I mentioned, go to rainfall.one /beta BETA, and it allows you not only to sign up to create your aura, it also allows you to join the Telegram community, and all of our unique value that we're offering will be dropped in there. So please do go ahead and join so that you can get when it's merchandise, when it's incentives, airdrops, etc. Make sure you're right there to get them.
All right, that's amazing, and that's pretty understandable. So I think that's all we're gonna take for today's session. Thank you once more, Amit, for joining us today for today's AMA and presenting this amazing project with us. And guys, don't forget to follow the project and join their Telegram as well, and follow everything, and also engage in the community. And that's basically the best part of it. And in the next 5 years or 6 years, because it's all about the long haul and the future. So you guys should always engage with them and join their platform, and also grab a bag as well, because that's also important as well. So Amit, thank you once again. It's been a pleasure having you here with us. So also sorry for this. Is there like a closing statement that you would like to add before we round up for the session?
Yeah, I'd like to just thank everyone for taking the time to ask questions, to understand more about rainfall. I can't tell you not just for the reasons of rainfall, but how important it is in this world of AI that everyone regain control over their own AI and recognize that data is a fundamental human right, and we are all generating data that needs to train our own AI and create value for us and deliver that value back to us, not just to 7 or 8 large tech companies. So, please, whether it's rainfall, whether it is, other ways that you think about protecting the digital value in your life, I can't tell you how important it is that we all wake up to the reality of what's happening in this world where data is the primary new currency, and having it be self-sovereign so that it's owned by you. It is so absolutely important, and that's the reason why we built Rainfall. And I appreciate everybody's time and attention. Please go sign up on rainfall.one/beta, and then be part of this amazing journey. Let's bring true self-sovereign AI to 6 billion connected humans around the world, so you can generate a daily value from the reference of your life.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for joining us today, and also community, don't forget to join their community and sign up for the Rainfall. Sign up for the Rainfall and engage in the community. So it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you for joining us once again, and bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.